Would like to start the masterclass. I am very happy that you are here, and I'd like to welcome Alexandru Solomon, director, who is here with us to talk about his work. And I would like to share with you that his film is going to be screened 2 times at the festival. The first screening will be on the 25th. The title is Arsenie, An Amazing Afterlife. And it will be screened on the 25th at 5:30 at Corvin Cinema, and the other one is going to be at the 27th at the Corvin Cinema as well, at the evening at 8:30. So check out it in the program or find it at verzión.org. Thank you. So I'm giving you the mic, Alexandru.
Thank you so much for being here. Is it okay if I speak like this? Can you hear?
Not really.
Not really. Should I?
I'm trying to.
Oops. Okay.
Oh no. Oh no, it's like.
Or you can hold it in your hand.
Like this? Yeah? That's good? No?
Can you hold it?
I can hold it. Okay. So, hello again. I was thinking of, going a bit through the process of making the film and how I got to this solution in the end of making the film. And then the last part will be about the reception of the film, which is for me now, part of the film also. It transformed also my perception of the film, which is what happens after the film was out in in July, so since then I traveled with Arsenie and Amazing Afterlife. So for me now the film is changed because I had probably 25 screenings where I was present, so it's difficult for me to come back to 2017, 18 when I started, but I'm doing this effort with you together. And maybe at the end we'll leave some time for dialogue and questions. We have 1 hour, that's it. So this is the poster of this film that I started without. I had an idea where I wanted to go at the beginning, but it was more, broader theme. I was interested in doing something about the influence of the church in politics and in social life in Romania. And I was looking for a sort of vehicle, a sort of story that would carry this theme. Because I don't know if you know, but Romania is an majority Orthodox country. 90% of the people are Orthodox. Christian Orthodox, and I could describe it briefly that we went from communism to Orthodoxy in the past 30 years in terms of influence and ideology, and the church is very, very powerful, and the politicians also are using it. So this became clear to me that I wanted to do something about this in 2017, and I'll talk later on about what I did then. First I knew the theme, and then I started to think about Arsenie, which is this new saint that is rising now in Romania for the past 20 years. He died in '89. But his popularity started with social media in the years 2000, after his death, so 10, 15 years after his death. Pilgrimages started, huge pilgrimages. And he became a sort of token for Orthodox people all around. You could see him in taxis, even at the film board offices or everywhere. Big business, but also a big, number of followers. So for me, it was interesting to understand how we got here, and why. Why is this new saint that is born in the 21st century with contemporary tools, online, social media, everything? Why did he become so immensely popular? So I started doing research, but still I had a bit too many lines of research. There was this idea of doing something about the power of the church and how does this mingle with the state, and what does this mean for every citizen in the country? Because it's very mixed. It's economical, it's political, it's social, in all ways. So I was trying to get into, to understand through investigation what goes on behind the scenes there. Then I was, of course, interested by the cult in itself. How did we end up with having a new saint in the 21st century that is representing, hope for so many people? And then, of course, the business around the cult and how it is exploited and who exploits it. When I started, as an anecdote, there were a couple of guys in Nagyvarad, Oradea, in Transylvania, that have registered in London the brand with the name Arsenie Boca, and they pretended a monopoly on the brand, and they said the church is making at least $25 million US out of it annually. So they wanted that money, and they tried. So I met them, and I met with people from the church, and then with people that were anthropologists. And of course I went to the archives, but that's funny. But I didn't put it upside down, my face. But it's good. I like it. So I thought, okay, apart from this investigative approach that I have, with experts and people from the church and people from, the business, I thought that I'm gonna make the film if I understand a bit the pilgrims, which is the basis of the cult, of the business, of the politics of it. Why are people driven to this? What happens with them when they go at the tomb of Arsenie Boca, or when they go to monasteries where he preached? He was also a painter at the end of his life, so people went also to see there's only one church he painted. And I became a bit fascinated by the character also, I must say, by this saint. I'm completely atheistic and I have no organ for religion, but it's probably a birth default something, but I don't have it. But I became fascinated by the guy, because he was expelled from the church in the 50s, of course, under communist pressure also. But he was sort of a rebel towards the church, but also to the communist regime. Very, very bright guy, So I said I'm going to do an observational film, jump into buses and vans and minivans that were carrying the pilgrims to these worship places, and go with them, try to establish a relationship, try to understand what goes on with them, why are they going there, and it was very surprising. I did this for 3 years, on and off, not all the time. I was going on pilgrimages that were organized by different associations. This is part of the business also, the money that comes from the pilgrimages. People pay to go there. There's a guide always. So they sleep somewhere. There's the bed and breakfast industry that is also benefiting from it. And then they buy a little icon, or maybe a bigger one, depending on their finances. So there's a lot of money coming from that. So I went with them in different places, and it was very surprising because in Romania, on TV, whenever you turn it, they always speak about this kind of pilgrimages as gathering mainly, low-income women from the countryside. That's it, you know. Obscurantism, how do you say that in English? I don't know. But anyway, uneducated women from the countryside, low income. And the first pilgrimage I went to, you know, I had my little camera with me and I was incognito, I thought, you know. The first stop of the bus, we go down, there's a young guy of 25, a student, very bright, comes to me, he says, I admire your films a lot. So, forget incognito. And it was like this all the time. People who came on pilgrimages were doctors or ladies with a fortune or whatever, you know. There were low-income ladies from the countryside, but, you know, it wasn't the majority at all. But soon I discovered that I had a problem because I had several problems with the approach. These pilgrimages were lasting for 2-3 days, so there was not enough time to bond with the people. The next time I went, there were other people, and so on and so forth. So, and when I tried to reach these guys out of the pilgrimages, I kept, you know, connection with some of them. There was suspicion all the time. It wasn't the same thing. So I kept meeting new pilgrims, all the time. And also, I was there with a little camera, trying to, you know, do my job, observational job. But the people, the pilgrims, were going there to pray at Arsenie tomb, for instance, or to, which was usually a moment of intimacy for them, deep intimacy, and a moment from which they hoped they would get something, in the sense of solving something in their lives. And sometimes these were health problems, health issues, big ones or smaller, or even people wanted to quit smoking and they would. And it happened, you know, I mean, that's why I still smoke probably, because I'm not but jokes aside, I had this. I was intruding, people were always changing, and there was no time. And it's also not my kind of meal, I must say. I did films before that were political, but they always had a sort of fantasy side, a sort of playfulness with the pictures, and I'm interested into that. And you know, when you're in a bus with 35 people or 40 sitting on a little seat there with a shitty camera, it simply didn't, you know, I was scratching the surface and that was it. So I was thinking of showing you a teaser that I did in that period when I hoped I would do this observational approach. I also wanted to change, you know, I have this, I wanted to change my approach. Where is this? Next. Okay, first. So that's an old teaser, probably from 2018, 19.
Adevărul e singur, Hristos. Dacă sunteți în acest pelerinaj, probabil că sunteți pe drumul bun, pentru că sunteți într-un pelerinaj în care căutați pe un părinte sfânt. Și acesta a fost părintele Arsenie. De aceea mă întorc și spun că oamenii înțeleg destul de greu lucrul acesta, mi se pare abstract. Cum adică să-L urmezi pe Hristos? E destul de complicat. Și tocmai pentru că Hristos a trăit cu 2000 de ani în urmă și este greu de perceput și de urmat, Dumnezeu, din mare milă pentru poporul român, ne-a trimis acest sfânt, pe Sfântul Părinte Arsenie. plăcere.
Noi nu știm câte trepte vor mai fi rânduite de Dumnezeu ca să urce pelerinii Mănăstirea Pistrop, Episcopia Sfânta, Adele și Unicare, Metropolia Ardealului și Patriarhia Română, până când se va ajunge la plinirea premii, la altarul care este
Yeah. I think I need to explain something which was in the written and verbal presentation of the project when I showed this teaser. So while I started going on to pilgrimages, there was this big campaign in Romania for changing the constitution in order to modify the definition of the marriage as being the union of a man and a woman, not of two people of every gender. And there was a coalition called Coalition for the Family that was very active on that, and the church was, of course, supporting it. And you could hear in the video how this priest was, trying to convince the Arsenie's followers to vote in this referendum for the changing of the constitution. The referendum failed miserably. I mean, people didn't go. 20% of the population went, so it wasn't valid. But it was also a sort of cornerstone or crossing, because from there, new far-right party appeared from this movement. Now they're, running for the second place in Paris. So the atmosphere was this. You could hear this political noise in the background in the pilgrimages. Yeah, what else? But let's say the feeling that I had towards the rushes was that I wasn't satisfied with this kind of approach. And I also realized that I had to, I couldn't do the film unless I was exposing myself somehow. This is from a year before. I did a performance at the Patriarchal Palace in Bucharest, where I cut myself and threw money to the people, because the Russian Patriarch was invited by the Romanian one to visit the country with the acknowledgement of the Romanian government. This was 2017, so 3 years after Crimea and all of that already. And it was a sort of official visit. And the purpose of the visit was, or the pretext of the visit was to commemorate the victims of communism in Romania and Russia. And we all knew that the Russian Patriarch was a former KGB guy sent by Putin, and the Romanian Patriarch also, was part of the same, big organization somehow. But, I had this dark spot on my CV already when I started making the film, so I couldn't avoid it, or I couldn't pretend that it wasn't there. And in one of the first pilgrimages also, one of the pilgrims came to me and congratulated me for this, which was also amazing, because you would suppose they would be supporting the church, but they weren't. People were religious, but against the church. It happens. There's a lot of that. And Arsenie had this, for them, had this special attraction also because of that. He didn't represent the church, he represented a sort of an outsider. And I was an outsider. So, but I was also, and I am, atheist, as I say, and Jewish. So I had to, you know, somehow deal with this in the film. And this was also, while going on pilgrimages, one of the reasons why I wanted to change the approach, not being observational, not going throughout the story as I would be, you know, sort of a neutral observer. I wasn't, and I couldn't be, and I also wanted to go a bit deeper into the, you know, into this world of believers, you know, as I say here, that these believers immersed into the world of believers. And in parallel, I was studying all these files in the Securitate archives, which is the main source on Arsenie Boca, because he was followed from the 40s during the pre-communist regime, which was basically fascist in Romania, and then during communist he was followed, the surveillance note, he was arrested twice because of his connections with the far-right movement in Romania. But you could say, you know, these are files made by a secret police that was criminal in a communist country, Stalinism, whatever, that fabricated a lot of files like this. So you could doubt about their veracity and authenticity. Is it the real Arsenie that we are seeing in the files or not? And there were a lot of stories in the files that I could, you know, cross-check, and they were real in the end. But also, what was funny for me was that the legend of Arsenie Boca as a sort of miracle worker was based on these Securitate files, that miracles are first collected by the Securitate officers, of course from people, from the believers, from his followers that said he did this and that, he made, you know, rain come, or he healed somebody. Basically it was health problems that he resolved, or he, how do you say, teleported himself from one place to another. And all these stories are in the Securitate files, you know. They somehow acknowledge them by transcribing them, but it was there. And this, in the end, was, you know, coming back towards me after the film was finished. But I was confident that the files were correct in a way. But what I discovered in the files was also that he was, you know, damn good at marketing, this guy, you know. He was a genius in the 40s when he started preaching. He was a genius in posing, in imposing a sort of picture, you know. He has this picture of him that is circulating in all places, as I say, in Romania. It's fabricated with, of course, with his knowledge and his, you know, input. You can see this. And he's, you know, posing in his monastery in a white gown. It's always a lot of scenography involved and a lot of, you know, good looks. And he was good looking. I mean, he was really, had a sort of powerful charisma. And a narcissist, of course. So this, for me, this was one of the basic things why his cult emerged in the 21st century, because social media is narcissistic also, no? He's an Instagram guy. He could be. So he is the product of all this. So the film became for me more the story of myth building, but also something that is related to the marketing of pictures. You know, how do you build pictures? How do you deal with this kind of staging? Staging yourself to become a saint. And I wanted to explore this in a way that would be, you know, cinematically interesting. And also, you know, this is not something very original, but religion is theater. I mean, the Mass is based on Greek theater, basically, the Orthodox Mass. And the whole ritual means staging, you know. What I couldn't do when going observational on the pilgrimages, because I had to hide people, you know, monasteries wouldn't let me film, the priests wouldn't let me film them, was this kind of, you know, staging, this value of scenography and staging a ritual. So I had to find another way, because I had all these problems. And because I understood that, you know, there's a relationship between sainthood, religious rituals, cults, miracles, and fiction, and picture making, you know. And also I had to include myself. So based on this, I got to this idea that I'll be the guide of a pilgrimage, that I'm going to organize myself with a production, and that I'm going to cast a group of pilgrims. We went to an agency that was casting extras for films, fiction films. And I asked the agency, okay, I need people who have been on pilgrimages, who are interested in Arsenie, they have a story with Arsenie. But they're willing to, you know, to participate in this film pilgrimage. And then I did this casting. I've seen 50 people. I chose 20. 2 or 3 I brought from people that I knew apart from this group. And I'll explain why. I did a sort of route like all the pilgrimage agencies were doing. We're going to go this, there, at the place where he was preaching, his first monastery, then at the second, where he's also buried, at the church, which he painted, all this. And I also prepared, you know, excerpts from the Securitate files for them to read them together in a group, and then discuss them. And then I also wanted to, you know, find a way of visualizing these miracles, because for me it was important, you know, religious beliefs are not visible. I mean, it's something that is very complicated to show, you know. Miracles also, you know, people believe, but they see the miracle with their, you know, mental eyes, not with the real eyes. So I wanted to create all this context in which I would still keep my distance and humor and, you know, disbelief, while also setting up a sort of stage for them to perform, react, read, understand, debate. So this is one of the scenes where, which is typical for the film, apart from the bus, where we travel and I tell them stuff in the bus to introduce where we're going and what we're going to see. Then we stop, read one fragment from the Securitate. They dress a bit like the officers or whoever is in the text. And then we sit together and we debate. I'm there also, I talk to them, and then I take them apart and make them confess somehow their own story, their own personal story. I'm going to show you a clip. It sounds a bit fuzzy, but or maybe I'm explaining it fuzzy. But, so it was about mise en scène. I'm not sure if it's right now. No. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I think I had another. Yeah, no, sorry. Too much miracles. Yeah. So we created this context of the pilgrimage as a setup with real people, but which were also extras, with the route, with the lectures and the confessions, meaning that we bought a sort of curtain that is specific to the churches from the church shop and placed it behind the person with which I was wanting to have a sort of dialogue, and they were telling me a story in front of this curtain, a sort of confession. And then we did reenactments of the miracles. So maybe it's time to show you the selected line. I think I can. You know, these things, for instance, the fact that this guy in the bus sang, he usually sang in his church because he's neo-Protestant. But I didn't know it up front. He came to the bus with his, texts, and then with his, how do you say this, loudspeaker and stuff. And he wanted to, find the way to sing. The other guy who is singing the flute, it's also his personal thing. I didn't invent it, So people, since they were extras, they contributed a lot to the story. Somebody else was doing hypnosis. We had a hypnosis session with the assistant director, for instance. It didn't work. We filmed it, and she was reluctant to get herself carried on. But they did participate a lot, and extras are sort of, very special creatures because they want to play, they want to be in the camera. They're usually, 50 meters behind, some truck, and nobody asks them anything. And the Arsenie guy, the guy who impersonated him, I wanted him, he's an IT guy. I wanted him to, yes, but he has a connection. If you come and see the film, he has a connection with Arsenie. I wanted him to be the only one who wouldn't speak. He was just there, sort of, like a sort of presence on which you can project anything, your thoughts, your hopes, your traumas, whatever. So he's always somewhere. I didn't tell him to smoke. This was one of the biggest scandals around the film, that the guy who impersonates Arsenie Boca is smoking. It's not Arsenie Boca, but this is very funny how people watch films and how people identify, the enemies of the film in the end said that it's a blasphemy because the guy who is Arsenie Boca is smoking. And they can't make the difference. It's very funny to me. And I think this is one of the main issues with the film, that people are mixing stuff, reality, fiction, staging from what is documented and so on. Yeah, this is something, about how I could deal with my place. And since I wanted so much to be part of the group, not somebody, Mr. Director outside, I wanted them, first of all, to know my history, my history with the church, my personal thing, that I'm Jewish and non-believer. They all hope that I will become a believer at the end. None of us, change their position, except the guy who is playing Arsenie. So, since I wanted to be part of them, I couldn't be very, let's say, very critical or very aggressive from a progressive, what we call today, progressive side. So I brought an artist, a young artist, who is very local, a lady, a friend, who was also playing this part, the part of the progressives, in these group debates. So I delegated part of my role. And then for these miracles staging, there were sort of naive representations of these miracles. It's usually, popular belief has this connotation of naivety. We have in Romania and probably here also, on Christmas they do stagings, like very naive, old-fashioned stagings around Christmas. And I wanted these scenes to be like this, and that we would play with this, dress, play, stage them, travesty. So everything was there. The cameras were always in the shot, the mics, because we were shooting with 2 or 3 cameras to cover all these 20 people and all the reactions. So all the, let's say, all the belly of the film was exposed somehow, including in this funny staging stuff. I didn't want them to be, very believable, but the thing is, when you believe, you don't need much. So this could be enough. And for instance, the carriage scene, for me it was important that pilgrimages have this very physical dimension. People are standing, freezing, walking for miles. Sometimes they kneel and they walk. I mean, they kneel and walk for hundreds of meters. So I wanted to do this together with them also. It's part of this carriage procession, which is sort of also the staging of Arsenie Voca's arrest when the Securitate cars broke down because of his powers. He had to be transported by carriage. And then of course the cameras and the crew, which were visible and were part of this whole process, they changed a lot. But I felt that, for instance, this lady that was telling us how she had this love problem, and she wanted a solution. I think she's very sincere. I mean, she has a story that she built around Arsenie and her love affair, but she is sincere, and it comes because there is a camera there. It also comes out because there is a camera. And because there is this, all this group camp, Jesus camp thing around her. Yeah. And I always, wanted to play with these 2 parts of the screen, so that the miracle, the performance, the staging would be behind, while the person that is confessing is in the front. Because I also thought of all these, religious paintings where you have this simultaneous presence of a contemporary prince or priest or whatever politician in a medieval surrounding, while Christ is behind doing something, Yes, and then we also introduced all these, part of this media buzz around Arsenie in the film. We watched them and we were filming, the way that people were watching these scenes, how this influenced them, discussing these things. So there's this, let's say, media picture of the saint that is in the film through quotes, like the files of the Securitate are quoted inside. I think time is running very fast. So the film was ready this spring. We watched it together with the pilgrims. It was very good that they loved it. And then we had the premiere and the film tours for 3 months in Romania. And I went to about 20-something screenings in the country and kept a diary of what people said, what I could remember. And it was very, very interesting. The commentaries, the questions that they addressed. And it posed me a lot of problems, about this kind of mixture of hybridization of documentary and fiction and parody and travesty. Also this hybridization was used as a sort of, by the enemies of the film, as a sort of main tool, main weapon, saying that this film is not a documentary. These are, people that I paid to and made them say whatever I wanted, and so it doesn't, it doesn't have a real basis, which is interesting. I mean, the church, even the church, when they tried to ban the film, they made a sort of critical analysis of the film with time codes and stuff. It was very serious. I think they never, did this on any film, and they didn't watch documentaries before. So there is a positive in the law. Now they know. And very often people in cinemas asked, I mean, the ones that were unhappy with the film, what is the genre of the film? What have we've been watching? And the reason was, they said, because if the genre would be clear, then I would totally trust the film. So if you present something as a documentary with a voiceover and experts, then people totally would swallow anything, which is very interesting. Once you make them, jump from debates to conversations to staging, then back to debates, then to marching together or going on a bus and observing what happens there, which I did most of the time. This jumping poses a problem. Of course, I hope that in every scene the viewer knows what he's watching, that he's watching, here it's observation, here it's mise-en-scène, here it's staging, and so on. So I hope that I gave the audience the key to understand all these scenes separate. But I think, we always speak about the fact that nobody trusts anybody and anything nowadays, and any picture, people are willing to doubt. For instance, I have some pictures of Arsenie from the 60s in the film, which are black and white. And one person in the audience said, of course, these are fake, because Securitate had color in the 60s. No, they hadn't. I mean, they probably had, but most of the files are black and white photographs. No. So he was willing to, totally blow up the veracity of the documents because of his belief that the pictures should be colored, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, nobody criticized the film because I am reenacting this carriage scene, which is based on the Securitate files that describes his arrest when the cars of the Securitate broke down. So that, in a way, testifying or, how do you say, make it authentic that the cars broke down maybe because of Arsenie's power. This was okay, so people choose what to believe in a very strange way. And then, of course, they said, yes, the Securitate files, these are criminal files, you cannot use them. Why didn't you use, there's probably 20 volumes of testimonies from people who have met Arsenie, or who had a grandfather who met Arsenie, or who had, I don't know, a doctor who met Arsenie. And they all speak about miracles, but they're published 15 years after his death. So why didn't I use these miracle readings? And I usually say it's more fiction than the Securitate files, And so I think the film in itself became part of this, whirlwind of suspicion, crazy suspicion around it. And this came, what was interesting was the fact that the film was attacked on the same grounds by the progressives and the conservatives, which in my eyes it says that the film is good. Somehow, sorry. You know, because they said, yeah, it's not a documentary, both camps said. It's not a documentary, it's not, you know, on the one hand it's too open-ended, because I didn't want to give a sort of, you know, big narrative arch in this sense. It was our pilgrimage together and my understanding of these people, that's it. And also they said, yeah, but the director is in the film and he's so openly on one side and he's, you know, so this makes the film, and this was from the progressives, this makes the film totally unbalanced. I can't believe in the film because the director is in the film and he's saying what he thinks, what he believes. Basically, I'm translating a bit, but. And everybody wanted experts, you know, why there's not this anthropologist who could explain, yeah, a mess. But it's all about trust, you know, and suspicion in the end. And it's all about, I think that people have the tools to interpret anything, but they forget about them, you know, somehow, strangely. You know, they don't want to use the tools because they are sticking to their beliefs, which are stronger than anything. And the film is about this, you know, we discuss the facts, I try to tell them this didn't happen. And they say, interesting. And 2 days later, they still come to the legend. They still come back to the legend. So, yes, and then, you know, many people said that, oh, these guys in the film, they're not educated. Again, you know, the same cliche. The pilgrims are not educated. And I say, there's 2 students, 1 master degree, 2 doctoral, I don't know. Plus, of course, yes, an accountant, whatever, 2 or 3 that are retired, no big studies, but it's a mixed group, you know. Yeah. I don't know why I'm telling you all the criticism of the film, because we'll give you ideas for tomorrow if you come in. Yeah, and of course, the film plays on this ambiguity between what is true and what is false, and what is a document and what is not a document, what is staged, what is put mise-en-scène and what not. But, and yeah, I had a hard time explaining this. So, shortly, that's it. But it doesn't have to end like this, you know, with applause. I mean, if you have questions or queries, or, yeah, please.
I would love to. I'm also a filmmaker. I'm also an atheist. I'm also, I don't know. I identify with your approach here, and I'm really curious if you could tell us more about the phase of being unsatisfied with the observational approach and beginning to consider this performative participatory approach, because that's such a leap that requires a lot of faith as it happens. So I would love to hear more about that.
Well, you know, after 3 years of recording these pilgrimages, I decided that I'm not getting there. You know. Also because I didn't have access to the church at all. I mean, they were blocking a lot of entries, and whenever I got to grasp one high priest, you know, I talked to him and recorded this dialogue, and I couldn't understand the word. You know, they were speaking like Marjan for me, and you can't. It's far worse than the communist regime. You can't understand the thing what they're saying. So there was this wall, And yeah, and I wanted my people, you know. It was this. I wanted a group of people with whom I could rely, connect, know who they are better, process this together. And also, the film is a commentary on myth-making and picture-making, so it had to be something like this. Of course, I lost a lot, you know. I lost a lot of the... In the film, there's 5 minutes from these pilgrimages, observational people at the beginning, but that's it. But I lost a lot of the context. It couldn't, you know, I tried to squeeze in more explanations about Arsenie, for instance, or about the power of the church, but it wouldn't fit in, you know, it's a different film. So, of course, this method at some point limited my choices somehow, you know. So, and this is frustrating, but it's like this, you know, every film is more about giving away stuff than including everything that you wanted. So, yes. Did I answer you?
Yeah.
But of course, you know, I still play with the idea that maybe I should edit these observational. Right.
The documentary.
Well, the real
No, the real commentary.
and the real commentary.
Commentary.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But there was one one person in the audience somewhere who said, because we had this debate, what is it? They said it's a mockumentary. I said, no, it's not. It's a hybrid. And one person said it's a documentary from Boga. So it's a new genre, why not?
He allowed this to happen, so.
Hmm?
He allowed this to happen.
Of course. Yeah. And I mean, the marketing is based on him. There was another hand there. Yeah.
I wonder if any of your characters felt ridiculed.
No.
No?
I mean, most of them came, we had one screening just for them, and it's 18 out of 20 that came. I think 2 from the group never saw it because we couldn't reach them anymore. And then they came also when we had the premiere in Bucharest, twice to 2 screenings, and then some of the people came with me to a couple of festivals. I think they were sincerely happy because they were listened, you know. And you know, we played together. I don't know how to say it. I mean, I never laughed at them, you know. And I think whenever people in the audience laugh at them, I feel bad, of course. But there is humor in the film, so people laugh in the rooms. Is humor bad? In principle, you know, I don't think so. I don't think so. But they didn't feel ridicule, and they didn't say it, and they wanted, you know, I had talks from time to time with some of them, and they wanted to make another film with me, so I guess it's okay. Yeah. And I want to make another film with them. Yeah. Me too. I think they're great. And I think this desire to play, it's even difficult to find in actors, you know, sometimes. But this desire that they have to be in front of the camera and, you know, bring stuff from home and be there and play, it's amazing. Why not? Yeah.
Do you know if they had any critics from the church or the community?
Personally?
Yeah, personally.
Not that I know. No. Yeah.
How did you advertise the film to the pilgrims? I mean, why did they come on the pilgrimage?
At the
Did
beginning.
they know that they would be part of an experiment, or there would be some kind of...
They knew
Did they know that you are not one of them, let's say, and
They
were
knew
part
this.
of it?
No, they knew this up front.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. They knew this up front, that I wasn't a believer, that I was Jewish and stuff. I told them that we're going to do a pilgrimage, an organized pilgrimage to places linked with Arsenie, and try to understand the character and why is he so famous. We did tests in the casting process, what we're doing in the film, read the text and then debate, and then I told them that we're going to do this reenactment, little reenactment pieces. Maybe sometimes they were unhappy. One lady is in the film was unhappy with the costume, but then it changed. So, yeah.
So during the casting, were there some cases where you rejected to choose some actors due to their too strong belief in this concept of religion?
Not because of that. Well, some of the people were similar cases, similar profiles, so I had to choose so that it's not repetitive. Other people were, I felt they were really out of their minds, so I didn't want them in the film. Yeah, mostly this. Because I wanted to have a group as diverse as the groups that I've seen in the pilgrimage, in the real observational pilgrimages. And, cast different ages, genders, occupations, stories, mainly this.
I have a kind of what-if question. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
Okay, what if you were not going for the pilgrimages yourself as an embedded character? You think you would have done a different selection of characters, or it was kind of confirming what you were already in?
Yes, I tried to mimic the groups that I've seen in the real pilgrimages. No, I couldn't have done the film without, and I wouldn't feel legitimate to do the film without doing the observational part. So this is compulsory, was compulsory, yeah. Yeah.
I just wondered, if you could get into more details of, what were your prerogatives and what was the casting process like? What would you go to casting agencies I need somebody that is actually religious, that believes in Arsenie. Yeah. How was the whole process in getting these people?
Well, I said before that these were the criteria, that they are religious, that they have a connection to Arsenie, and that they're experts. And that, yes, I told them that I want people who are in their 20s up to 70s.
No, all over the place.
Yeah. Young and old. And
how long did that last?
Not much.
Not much?
A month, maybe. Yeah. I think, once you know where to go, then it turns easy. And we shot for 7 days, that's all. But before I had 3 years of pilgrimages in the garbage, so to speak, not really. Yeah.
So in Romania, this film was heavily attacked, and you were even kind of almost banned to take part in the civil film festival, right? But this was coming from the part of the viewers, or just from the part of the church? Because when viewers see it, maybe they are like the pilgrims themselves. In the end, they realize that this is not a mockery. You do not mock them. They are not subject part of the experiment, but basically, at the end, you see them as people who can reflect, who can, be part of this reflexive game, mutually reflexive game, you see. So, why would they attack the film now? Because...
Well, first of all, the film was attacked by people who haven't seen it. Oh. Just in principle, They heard that the film is not a real documentary, and they look at the poster, it's a mockery. the poster itself attracted a lot of criticism. You know, why did you put dollars and you know, rockets? Everything is from Arsenie Boga's paintings. You know, he painted rockets in a church, and he painted the modern man and whatever. So, of course, he didn't paint. It's not here. No, not in this. The hammer and the sickle. But it was part of his life. You know. So. First they attacked it in principle. There were people in the audience who did dislike the film, of course, yeah. But most of them stayed for the talks. I mean, 2, 3 left in the first 10 minutes and the rest stayed to express their anger or whatever. But then they stayed to talk for an hour, and I think this is, you know, major breakthrough. Online it was different, because online people are, you know, just pulling the, you know, the toilet on you. So yes, and then with the church it was different. They felt attacked. You know, it was their territory. Why would, you know? It was like the other guys who wanted to get the brands. Somebody out from the church is doing Jewish. You know, all this. There was a lot of anti-Semitic, a lot. Even from people, colleagues, directors of mine, who published articles in far-right journals about this. But it's good because I know where I stand, you know. Why not? I kick the bucket and I get what I deserve. Fair enough. Last one. Okay.
I just wanted to ask you, what was, as a filmmaker or as a person, if you divide these two, but seemingly enough, what was the most important learnings from the whole process?
Yeah.
What did you learn?
Well, I think in the film you can feel that I come to terms with these people. I had a much more, you know, black and white picture of them, and of the whole, you know, followers of religion. I still have the same approach towards the political side of the religion, but otherwise, yes, I think I came to terms with this. And I also understood that no matter what, you know, the belief is stronger than anything, any debate, any fact-checking, any, you know. And that the way to approach this, it's not this, it's not fact-checking, it's not rationalizing. The only way is to sit with them and talk, you know. And the film, I think, did this for the people that were in the cinemas. And, yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, she wants to say something.
I can say it like this. So thank you for being with us, and I just would like to recommend tomorrow's Doc Pro events. We will be at